No, dirty glass. It had water in it.
Hey, it's PodcastForWe. We're starting a video. We gotta record real fast. This is me. K-Dog is Evil Maximus, also known as Ever, also known as Kevin. Well, no, he's not. Whatever. Fuck you guys. No, I was gonna say we gotta record this podcast like pretty quick, I guess, because our time with the meeting. What is it? Zoom isn't letting us go 4 hours like we usually do.
Damn it, Zoom. Why are you getting greedy right now?
I know. So I got some topics. We got interrupted several times with COVID-19, and I have to say there was more in the tank for that. And I had more, over the days, to talk about. Now, are there people protesting in California?
Yeah. The downtown San Diego, we've had protesters out there.
Republican or Democrat?
You know what? The perception is that they're mostly Republican, but I mean I haven't done the research to go and find out. But I mean you do see like MAGA hats and stuff like that.
What about the news? Because I don't watch the news.
The news around here tends to lean Republican. It feels like a lot of them want to get out. A lot of them want to start, opening things up sooner than the governor would want. So, but I feel like the reporting has been balanced. I don't feel like it's as obvious like on Fox News where it's just boom, we want one way, or OAN, where they're just flat out talking for the president.
Well, what do you mean by talking for the president? Is it more of a thing in which they want to open up this? Because it's breaking down to two main issues: opening or closing. So it's a thing. Yeah.
What happened in was it Wisconsin?
Georgia? I don't know. Michigan?
No. I think it was Wisconsin, Minnesota. I don't remember. I think it was Wisconsin. The state Supreme Court there said that the stay-at-home orders were unconstitutional per the state constitution. So basically, all of their stay-at-home orders are. And as of yesterday, I think everybody started going to the bars and stuff again. Just basically went back to normal.
Well, who's beating the drum of opening the states? Is it Republican or Democrat? Or both?
I think it's been politicized. So now I think the Democrats are probably asking to stay closed longer than we have to, just because the other side is saying to open now. I don't think it should be as polarized. I think
science.
I think it should be, they're saying it. What does that mean? When people say it should be science, based on science, it's basically saying, it should be based on what is our response capability if we have another spike. We eventually have to go back. We can't wait a year and a half for a vaccine, right? But are we ready? Is our infrastructure ready for when that spike hits again?
I thought this was done originally for reducing the amount of people going to the hospital, so the hospitals can then pick up the burden.
Right. Well, the thing about a curve, so you have a curve that goes like this, right?
Yeah.
The area under the curve should be the same. Even if you flatten it out, it's just going to stay flat for a longer period of time.
Okay.
The area under the curve is the same. The area under the curve will represent the number of people that get hospitalized. The thing here is that right now our curve is like this. If we open up, it's going to go back up. Now, are we ready for this level of shit to hit the fan? I don't know. I'm not the one looking at the numbers of the states. If we have enough ventilators in San Diego, if we have enough hospital beds in San Diego, if we even have enough healthy nurses and doctors on staff to handle a spike.
I think we do, because we're not hearing a lot of so if a nurse gets it, that shit's on the news, both CNN or Fox. So that's something that's for real. So or doctors, if doctors got it, or police, that's fucking televised right away. So we're not seeing that. So obviously it's flattened. So that would lend itself to, hey, look, we wanted to close to, what does it say? Flatten the curve, right?
Right.
And we flattened it. So we should open, right? I
right.
mean,
Well, we flattened it to try and see if it was never going to be like this. It was
never.
never going to be. We can't do that because this side to this side is a year and a half. It's the time that it takes to develop a vaccine. This curve was always going to do this.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
are we ready for that? Oomph?
And that's up for the governor to figure out, right?
I mean, Newsom should have he should have his fingers on that pulse. And I mean, listening to his conferences and stuff, he seems like a pretty level guy who looks at science.
But what I'm getting from Republicans is so that one time when he closed all the beaches, or no, opened most of the beaches except for that one beach, Orange County,
right.
And then they protested and then he opened it up. And
right.
It was kind of like, what the word was is that he only did that. Why just Orange County? And like, it was like the reason he did Orange County because they're very liberal or some bullshit like that. That's the word around the campfire.
So I went to about a week after they opened. I went to La Jolla Shores, and La Jolla, just to give the viewers a sense here, there's a block away from where I was at. There's a Bentley dealership, a Lamborghini dealership.
Yeah, La Jolla's up there.
And an exotic classic car dealership. This is the first place and the only place that I've seen a 918 Spider. I'm a huge Porsche fan. So the area is really, really high income, right? And so I was there and I was eating a burrito and a cop comes up and says, I'm sorry, but, we're not letting anybody stop. You got to be, if you're at the beach, you got to be walking in motion.
That makes sense.
I wasn't near anybody, and it made sense to me too, but there wasn't any signs that said that. There were signs down at the beach, but I was up on the sidewalk, like far away from where those signs were. So if anything, I had gone down to the beach first, saw the signs. I said, okay, fuck it. I'm back up, start eating my burrito up there. Cop comes, but the cop was very, very cordial, very nice, very tactful, very understanding. I was like, okay, I started wrapping up my burrito, right? I went into National City mode. I was like, fucking cops on us, we better do what he says.
Yeah.
They said, no, go ahead and, please finish your lunch. I shit you not. Use the word please. Please finish your lunch. And then, when you're done, just go ahead and move on. I was like, oh, okay, thank you. And they're like, thank you, have a good day. And they walked away.
Well, because he doesn't want to enforce a shitty rule.
Is it that, or is it just it's an area where you don't know if you're talking to a lawyer or some shit, You don't know if you're talking to somebody that's in the system. You don't want to get a phone call because those are the kinds of people that'll call, hey, you know what? I just talked to this person and he was very impersonable and, he offended me and this and that, blah, blah, blah. Now, Orange County, you've got Laguna Beach and all those fucking super high class, beachside, seaside properties and stuff. And that's another one of those places where you're not there unless you're from there, really. You've got people that probably visit, but it's so far away from the freeways that, I've only driven there a couple times, and it's way out of the way. The beaches along Orange County.
But what's your point? Why would
They got money.
So the governor's like, fuck that area.
And it's more
they have money.
Orange County is more Republican.
So he was gunning for the Republicans then.
He had shut down all the beaches or what?
Yeah, he shut all the beaches, but he opened all the beaches, but not the Orange County one until there was pressure.
Yeah, I don't know why he did that though. But the thing is,
because he's like, say he's because he's Democrat, anti-Republican, right? So he did that to get at them, right?
Also, there's these reactions too when you see videos of specific places going all out.
Yeah.
Also, I think the counties were able to pick whether or not their beaches were fully open. Florida had the same thing where different counties had different beaches open at different times, and the beaches that were open were like packed.
Yeah.
And some beaches had to reclose because nobody was respecting, social distancing and wearing masks and all that stuff.
It should have been the governor doling it out, because the president isn't the guy. He isn't the guy who says, you know what, California, you know what, Texas, you've been good to me. Or vice versa, you've been bad to me. Or just like science-wise, it's supposed to be the governors. And then the governors to the mayors.
It's something that I tend to agree with Trump on, you know,
He lets it to the governor. You want that.
because the states are like countries, man. The
Exactly.
United States is not one big monolith thing where if it happens in California, it happens in New York or even next door in Nevada. You know, California is its own country, and
Agreed.
so you know, part of where he starts talking about, you know, this, I'll let the states decide their reopening. You know, how soft or how hard that makes sense because geographically, the United States is huge.
But that is how the governing force is. And the states itself, California itself is huge. It should have been the governor. He's like his own mini president. He should have been like, do this. And then the mayors had to figure it out, you know?
He did do that. He was one of the first governors to shut down the state. Yeah.
He shuts down the state, but then the mayors go, because I think it was Pennsylvania, or you were just talking about it. Didn't like a mayor fucking sue or do something where he was like, no, it shouldn't be like this, bro.
I think that's the case that got settled this week.
But that's how it should be, though. Shouldn't it be governor tells mayors, hey, I'm cool with it. It's up to your mayors. And then the mayors figure it out, and then we shit on the mayor. Or is it something where the American people are just too dumb?
From there, I think it depends on the size of the state. You know, you got something like Maine. You know, the governor of Maine. You know, you could drive across that shit in a couple hours. You know, it's not that big. So there, you know, a governor probably have more leverage over even localities and their decisions.
I agree.
A place like California, you know, if Newsom were to, you know, delegate that responsibility out, I could understand.
Why? Yeah, no. I mean, yeah, that's what he should do.
But then you run into this problem. What if you have a mayor or a county that does something and it's totally counterproductive and it fucks the whole state because
you can apply that to governor to president.
Yeah. And that's the sticking point, because then as the governor, you're in a position where you have to actively overrule a decision from a mayor. So
which a president would have to do for a state.
Well, it's a chain of command thing. You know?
Exactly. So it should have went that direction.
Well, then it should have been then in that case it should have been Trump just telling everybody.
No. What I'm saying is Trump says governors do it. Governor goes, mayors do it. And if there's fucked up mayors, it's up to the governor to figure that shit out. Just like if there's a state like Texas, like fuck you, America.
But you don't want it to get to that point though.
Because there's too many mayors and the governor would be overrun. It would be too much for him.
Maybe not too much for him, but you just don't. The optics aren't good.
Well, fuck optics. It's about how to do it. We're not talking about optics. We're talking about structure of command.
Well, he would have to. Well, but by giving them the opportunity to make that decision, you know, and here's where my chain of command analogy breaks down. We're not in the military, right? There isn't a strict code guidelines, you know. Of what
the government works that way. It's supposed to.
Not in this case, right? Because we don't know where the line is between civil liberties and public safety. And that's the whole argument right now. And I'm down with that argument too, because again, it's a shit sandwich to ask everybody to stay inside and to threaten them with citations if they venture outside.
See, and that's why I think it really should be up to the mayors in that sense. The governor makes a group decision, hey, look, we should open. And then but I'll leave it up to the mayors. And the mayors decide. And I see what you're saying.
But go farther than that, dude. None of them really have the right to tell you to stay at home.
Oh, okay. Now we're here. We're here with this. All right. Say, okay. So like this disease, say it's wiping out 10% of the pop. America would really suffer badly if it was let's get rid of, give me a second. If it was like, if like 10% of the population wiped out, that would be pretty bad for America. It would be hard to recover. So we would have to do things that are counter to our civil liberties to keep us going, right? Because what's the fucking point if there's no America? If 10%'s gone and America collapse.
You're right. The argument that it's a stupid argument when they say, you know, oh yeah, you know, people are dying from COVID, but you know, people are also dying from depression, and also, you know, people are not getting their education. It was like, you can't educate people or cure their depression if they're dead.
That's true.
you know.
Well,
And
no,
so,
these are grandiose arguments, but there is an argument to be made whether we really do care about the people and their civil liberties. But let's just say, worst case scenario, COVID is of that nature to reduce 10% of the population. Let's just say that. Following the argument, would it be cool if they overcome civil liberties to keep the fucking machine of America going?
you know,
Like, I'm talking a real threat, not COVID the way it is now. I mean, it is bad, but not what they were projecting. Let's just say COVID 10%. Let's just say it 10%.
Lincoln did some things during the Civil War that were probably unconstitutional. You know, they still argue about it now.
Yeah.
Right. And it was to preserve the Union. He died, so we never went through that whole fight about afterwards would he pay the price for the decisions that he made.
And he's heralded as a hero because, you know, he ended slavery, if anything, to a point.
Preserve the Union and all that stuff. Yeah,
he did a Jesus.
I put him up there. Yeah, I think he was prepared to pay the price afterwards, you know, if it came to it.
We're getting lost in the weeds. So say now.
We're not.
Okay.
Because we are asking right now for politicians to make the same kind of sacrifice, and I think a lot of them are. But we're also asking citizens to make the sacrifices too. So really,
well, Civil War is a pretty that's a sacrifice.
Are people willing to give up their civil liberties?
I'm not even there yet. I'm just saying, as a fucking leader, wouldn't it make sense to preserve this machine to do that? Not the people. Let's fuck the people. Whatever on that. Let's just talk about the president.
It would make sense, but it's unconstitutional.
Okay, just like Abraham Lincoln, right? But we're all benefiting from that. You know, you have a Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Benefiting from it, yes.
Exactly. So it would be prudent to trample the civil liberties to keep the machine going. And that's a weird thing. So there's precedents for that. Presidents.
Yeah, president.
Fuck, man. For that, then that means that for the greater good, then you can do that. Problem. We have to decide whether or not that was for this right here. This COVID-19, was this for the greater good?
We've always made these kinds of decisions, man. Dropping the bombs was that kind of decision.
We can argue that, and I would say that that could be debated, but that should be an undebatable thing. I mean, to fight, you know, I'm down. We should have dropped 3. You know, I mean, fucking the rape of was it Tonkin, you know, or whatever the fuck, or
the Gulf of Tonkin, but
no, not the Gulf of Tonkin. Japan really fucked China hard.
Oh yes.
Japan was gonna be hey, yeah, we're gonna really surrender because, you know, if we fought the war, we would have lost millions. There's no way this would have worked out.
I wouldn't argue it on that basis because, I mean, those soldiers that were in China, most likely all those soldiers that were guilty of that shit weren't in Hiroshima or Nagasaki.
That's true. But you're from the entity itself, you know, for instance, if we were to fight China itself.
You're also talking about the 30s and the 40s where it was really easy to cover shit up. You know, so
that wasn't coverable. The fucking news was we dropped the fucking bomb.
The people didn't know that their own people were doing that shit. A lot of they were shielded from that.
You mean Japan didn't know what they were doing?
Citizens in Japan didn't know what.
They believed that guy was a god.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty intense. I mean, how do you fight against? See, we created, instead of a god, an ideal. You know.
Well, they were also being told the whole time that they were winning the war until they weren't, and that's why it was a big shock to them. They were like, "Wait, this whole time we thought we were winning. What do you mean, surrendering and all that shit?" It's the flow of information, and so in that case, I mean, I would, if we're balancing life costs, in a decision, which is kind of what we're talking about, it was really more to save, Americans from sacrificing their lives to try and go in and still.
Yeah, but you can't talk to zealots. You know what I mean? There's no talking. I mean, dropping the nukes was hey, look, this is us. That's what it is. I mean, we didn't have to talk to them. There was an award to discuss it. We couldn't drop propaganda. You know what worked?
One
Drop it.
guy making
Huh?
the, there was one guy making the decision.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. And then, I mean, fuck. And then, like, look at what we got. We got fucking
And
PlayStation 6.
and
10.
we argued about it afterwards.
We did, but like reality. I mean, like, we live in this reality, hopefully, and or maybe who knows. And that's just the way it is. Now, I mean, I'm not gonna. We're lost in the weeds here. Let's go back to here. COVID-19. We're trampling civil liberties. Is this the threat that we thought it was? It could be. It could not be. Who knows? But right now, the numbers aren't speaking of this threat. Now, I wanted to get to this. What this is doing is setting a precedence for, like, okay, so this is why I think Socrates came up with this idea long ago, the philosopher king, that we shouldn't have like politics and things like that. We should have just one person who's like philosophical and they fucking figure shit out. And look, okay, so the masks, right? Let's just talk about this mask thing, right? Right now, at this point in time, we literally have people saying the mask is worthless, it doesn't work, and I don't want to wear it because it's uncomfortable. So stemming from I don't want to wear it to it's uncomfortable to forgetting the original reason you're wearing it. You're not wearing it to protect yourself. You're wearing it to protect others. And given that science of that, and like we can both agree that the science is there for wearing a mask. It makes sense, right?
Yeah, you're just in droplets in the air. Right.
Exactly. But like that's not good enough. One guy I heard, he said, if you can smell me breathe, like, or breathe, if you hear me breathing or some shit like that, then obviously it's not working. And I'm like, this is where we're at. Because it's uncomfortable, it equals this doesn't work.
Well, I think it's been politicized.
Oh, I agree, but this is where I'm getting at.
And you're right. It comes from it. I think it comes from, like you said, it's the zealotry that comes from civil liberties. You know, don't take my guns. You know, don't tread on me. You know,
yeah, as long as it doesn't affect me. That's how it is. It's people are willing to sacrifice to an extent as long as it doesn't affect them. And then there's some kind of a fucking declining like line of that. Like, this has been affecting me, you know, this whole month of no haircuts, you know, that kind of bullshit.
Yeah, somebody in the White House that has to go to work there, even though they found a bunch of people had COVID in there, said to the press, they said, I'm scared to go back to work at the White House. And it's like, just now, you know, everybody that's been working at McDonald's and Burger King, they've been scared to go back to work this entire time. You know, and I think that falls into what you're saying. It's also easy to ask everybody to make the sacrifice until they have to make that sacrifice themselves.
Agreed. But nonetheless, though, if we're saying that this is a thing in which, so let's just pretend this is a real threat. This COVID is like death-defying threat. People are not willing to sacrifice, and they're willing to come up with the reasons why this isn't a real threat, just because of not sacrifice, but inconvenience. It's like the mask doesn't work. They're coming up with the science that's not true. The mask doesn't work. The governor is like trying to be power hungry. This my Orange County reference, you know, like they're saying that Governor Newsom, whatever the fuck. And they're also saying this Michigan lady, she's trying to seize power and all that bullshit. Or they're going to open the government during voting. So what I'm saying is it's getting weird and man, the world should fucking end. So if you ask people to sacrifice, they won't. They will for an extent, but then they'll just give up because it affects them.
Yeah, I don't think the messaging has been good. And, you know, first it was 15 days to slow the spread. Then they were like, well, okay, we're going to change it to 30 on top of the 15. I'm not arguing about it. It's just, you know, if you weren't prepared for it, if you fully believe that at the end of the 15 days, everything was going to go back to normal, that was a shock. And I'm sure some people got upset, you know, and once it turned to 30 days, people just fuck this, you know, especially at this point. We're so far away from the before times now, and I think people are just acting out of emotion, in either direction, and I don't think it has to be as polarized.
Now, my thoughts are, if there was a real threat, like where COVID-19, say COVID-20 comes out, or some real actual fucking thing, and all we have to do is say, I don't know, clap our hands every Tuesday or some shit like that. Now fucking kumbaya, the aliens away, or whatever the fuck. I don't think we will survive that test. In the sense that, like, all you have to fucking do, stay home and shut the fuck up. I mean, I know our civil liberties is to go, you know, we should be free, but for the common good, you know, we should just do what we're supposed to do. But then it turned into a thing where we're like, let's fight this shit. But then, okay, fine. Now there's a precedence for it. So, like, if there's a situation where we have to sacrifice, us individuals, that's where I'm back to the Philosopher King. That's where I think that would help. But because we have this weird government system, you know, the chain of command and everything like that, I think we'll fuck that all up.
Here's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about we come out of this, all the lawsuits come up, we go to court, and all of a sudden it becomes law, you know, precedented law, that you cannot have stay-at-home orders. And Congress isn't willing to put in stay-at-home orders because Senate's mostly Republican. You're not going to get that shit passed. It might come through the House, you know, an amendment, a no shit amendment that, hey, there are times of, pressure or danger or whatever, the government has the right to tell you to stay at home. If this flare-up comes back and we don't have that bullet in our gun, we're just going to have to eat it. You know what I'm saying?
And the mentality of some people, though, I'm hearing like real intelligent people saying it should be just the old people that should stay in their house, and us, we should be able to go out. It's like you're just not even thinking about how viruses mutate, or just like for other people, because like it gets to a point where you're thinking, yeah, I'm good, but okay, so you're good, and you cough, like say you're an asshole and you just cough on old people. I mean, because you're not made to stay home or like forced to stay home, you're just out and about. Now, yeah, there's you and me, we're cool with each other. We're not gonna cough on each other, and we're not gonna cough on old people. But how many of you and me are there? You know, there's a lot of assholes out there. So you're saying that the fucking idiot who says, I should have my fucking rights, I should do what the fuck I want, and then that fucking guy's out there and he's coughing on old people and they're fucking dying. So I mean, like, where?
Well, but that mentality comes from our leadership, and it's Trump arguing with his own people, and then turning it into something that it's not.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this virus isn't like red or blue; it don't give a shit. You know, and he's turning it into something where, you know, hey, if you're red, you want to go back to normal, want this right now, you know. And if it's somebody in his cabinet that's telling him, hey, you know, we may need to pump the brakes on this, he boots them, fires them, or puts them off to the margins, and then starts, you know, undermining them. And when somebody has to pick a side, all of a sudden he's telling them, okay, you're either with me or you're on the other side.
Well, what about Fauci, though? He kept Fauci.
Fauci's still around, but he hasn't been part of the panels. And then somebody asked, you know, what his relationship is with Fauci right now. And he said, oh, Fauci, he's a really good guy.
Well, what the fuck you want him to say? I love him and I suck his cock every third Tuesday.
That's Trump speak for he's a good guy, but I don't agree with him.
Did you get the warning? I did.
Yeah. That's his way of saying that he's a good guy, but I don't agree with him. And it's been a decline. It's been a slide, you know, from one end to the other, where he had him there and he was speaking, and now he doesn't even have him talking anymore. And they were even trying to block him from testifying.
That's tricky because there could be a lot of smoke and mirrors there. I I don't think people understand how the government works. And like, I hear you within, what is the word? Leadership, because your leader is supposed to make you think, yeah, this is good, this is bad, this is what we should do. Because when here a true testament of leadership was 9/11, right?
Right.
9/11 comes in and everyone hated Bush, but he even seemed like a dolt, right? But then 9/11 happens and we all felt comfort.
Well, because of what he was doing and the way he was doing things.
No, it was leadership. I mean, like that shit wasn't history has told us it wasn't him doing anything.
He was acting as a nexus of information. Yeah. It was mostly the people around him, but at the end of the day, he had the final word. He had the final say. And luckily, he listened to the right people, at least for the first part of that response. You know, the whole going into Iraq, he was manipulated into that shit.
But he conveyed to the American people, fuck whatever decisions he made.
Yes.
He conveyed.
Yes.
And he was garbage. Now here comes the true test of time. You got this whole virus comes out, and you got what's it called?
Well, here's the thing with
Trump, and he doesn't do well.
So Trump, I think he does have a bit of genius to himself in that he's able to read a room and figure out what people want him to say or do in that moment to get them on his side, or to get himself on their side. I'm sorry.
And that puts you above all Democrats when you said that.
But that doesn't work in this type of a situation because, again, the virus isn't responding to people's attitudes, you know, about civil liberties or not to wear a mask.
Because if he would have just said, we should stay closed through, I mean, I'm going to leave it to the governors, but we should stay closed. And then for the, you know, because of his, what do they call it? This cabinet or whoever his advisors say.
My advisors, yeah.
Then it's unified because if the president does it, then you did it, and then you're good. But because he's like, I'll leave it up to the governors, because he's reading the room, letting it go either or. There's no true leadership, and I'm with you on that.
Well, the thing because Reagan said, you know, the problem with the United States isn't government, or the problem with the government is the government itself.
Yeah.
You know, Republicans are usually for small government, and I get it. You know, state rights versus federal, you know, rights over the states and this and that, blah, blah, blah. So I think Trump let himself kind of get sucked into this and, you know, wanted to please his base, which is all about states' rights and local rights, and didn't want to be, you know, that parent. You know, you always have one parent, another parent, and the one parent that makes you take your medicine seems like the punishing one, you know, the more punitive one. I don't think he was ready to play that role. He's not able to tell his base, you have to do this. You know, I know you don't want to, but you're going to have to. You're going to have to sacrifice. I don't think he's ever been ready to do that.
And that's what makes him an incompetent leader.
Well, yeah, he's worried about not getting reelected because he's got to tell people something that they don't want to hear.
Which is kind of a bullshit thing to do because there's no way he won't be not president, right?
Dude, this is fucking crazy, man. I remember I was like, there's no way the Republicans are dumb enough to make this guy their nominee. And they made him the nominee.
You know,
no way the country's dumb enough to vote this guy into office. Voted him into office. And now we're seeing, you know, the effects of that decision. And I don't know, it's just frustrating. People wanted to, you know, overturn the system. You know, they wanted something radical, big change thing, right? When the system was more or less working, you know, at least to preserve itself, you know, the government, everybody in there, they're there to preserve themselves, but they understand that they got to keep the country going to keep their jobs, right?
Yeah.
Trump is just doing what he needs to do to survive that day. And that's not a way to develop long-term plans. That's the way he ran his businesses. And you know, a lot of them failed because of that. The short-sightedness.
But no one's saying that, especially the Republicans. They're just kind of going with it.
Well, see, and I don't know how many Republican the politicians. I mean, you hear reports of them saying that, you know, they're just trying to get through this. I would tend to lean in that direction. They want to keep their jobs at least until he's out. Then they could kind of go back to how it was before. But then again, how many of them are now radicalized? How many relationships have been ruined? You know, will it be easier to reach across party lines later on? Who knows?
You know what? They've always been hypocrites, like Hillary Clinton, who's
Yeah,
anti,
yeah.
you
The
know,
Democrats, yeah. There's hypocritical Democrats just like there's
Republic. Yeah, they're all hypocritical, all of them, you know. And like a true test is who's ever in power. It's the opposite end that gets radicalized. You know,
right.
I don't know. I think it's more radicalized now more than ever, and it's kind of
Yes.
hard to tell whether it's Trump or if it's technology with the tweets and everything.
That shit started with Bill Clinton.
Wow, fuck, they didn't have no tweets. You know that.
Right. I mean, I'm saying it started with it, but now that schism is like here now, right?
Yeah,
And
but I didn't feel these vibes with Obama. I know Republicans were shitting on him and stuff, but it wasn't like this, dude.
No. Within a month, Mitch McConnell and all them guys. It wasn't Mitch McConnell. It was the other Speaker of the House and the Speaker of the House, the guy in the Senate, the Majority Leader in the Senate, was saying that whatever he says, our job is just to say no. You know, whatever he wants, we're not going to let him succeed at anything.
I know, but that wasn't that big in the media in comparison to what Trump does. Because, like, let's be real. Trump has been in the news cycle every day since his presidency. Every day. Obama was not.
Yes and no. When Obama came in, we're still coming out of that financial crisis.
I agree. So but it wasn't every day.
That's why that dominated the news. You're right. I mean, because he wasn't making news every day. This guy's tweeting 50 times before the sun.
But it's like the hunger in the media is for bad shit. And so Trump has been able to fucking shovel this shit every day. I mean, like, so he's kept himself in the news.
I wouldn't want them to ignore the crazy shit that he says either. There's that. There's people that say, stop paying attention to him. You're just giving him a platform. But then there's another side where it's like, we have to hear this. We have to be reminded not to vote for this guy come November, that this is not okay. You know? And so, I mean, shit. I mean, when I hear Mike Pence talking, I'm like, well, that sounds a lot better than how his boss is talking.
Yeah.
You know,
I hear he'd end the world. If it was Mike Pence the president, he would end the world.
I don't know what happened there, but then again, you know, there's a reason he wasn't the head of the ticket. I don't think he ever would be.
Yeah, dude. When it was his Pence, I was like, who the fuck's this guy? Yeah. Like, everyone else is knowing, not him. Now, I was gonna say another thing is, I mean, we're running out of time. Do you want to pause, hit next meeting?
Yeah, we can go on to the next topic.
Yeah, well, I'm not done. I'm just not. I didn't even hit there's a lot I haven't hit.
So this is like not a commercial break. It's just a break.
Just a break. I was gonna upgrade to Pro, but I couldn't figure out how to do it. So I was like, while you were talking, I was like, fuck, I'm sacrificing my listening to trying to get that going. So what I'll do is I'll stop here and then re-invite you in a second. All right, everybody. This is the end of part 1 of COVID-19 2020. 246.